Hey guys, welcome back to Annie Narrates. The title for today's story goes like this. Future sister-in-law tries to pull a prank before my wedding by trying to make it seem like my fiance was cheating on me and decided to dump me 2 days before the wedding, and then told me that it was all a prank. I got angry and uninvited her for my wedding, so she decided to trespass and tell me the truth about my fiance. Hi everyone. This is the story of how my world came crashing on my wedding day. I, Lizzy, 28 female, was supposed to get married to my fiance Andrew, 30 male. I met Andrew 2 years ago through a mutual friend and we instantly clicked with each other. I remember that day like it was yesterday. We were at a casual get-together at Sarah's place. Andrew strolled in with his easy smile and infectious laugh, and I couldn't help but be drawn to him. We got to chat over some chips and dip. And before we knew it, we were deep in conversation about everything from our favorite movies to our childhood dreams. Turns out we had a lot in common. We both loved hiking, trying out new restaurants, and binging on cheesy 80s movies. It was like finding my lost partner in crime. After that first meeting, Andrew and I started hanging out more often. We'd grab coffee together before work or catch a movie on the weekends. And let me tell you, those movie nights turned into some of my favorite memories. We'd cuddle up on the couch with a bowl of popcorn and debate about which superhero would win in a fight. Spoiler alert, it was always Batman. Before I knew it, Andrew was spending more and more time in my place, and you know what? I loved every minute of it. I felt like we were building something special. One laugh and an inside joke at a time. Fast forward a few months, and Andrew told me that he was thinking about moving in. At first, I was a little nervous. I mean, living together is a big step, right? But deep down, I knew it felt right. So I took a leap of faith and said yes. Let me tell you, sharing a space with Andrew was even better than I imagined. Sure, there were some adjustments to make, like learning to compromise on whose turn it was to do the dishes, but overall, it was a dream come true. We fell into a rhythm, cooking dinner together, binge watching our favorite shows, and just enjoying each other's company. Then, 8 months ago, something magical happened. Andrew whisked me away to my favorite restaurant for what I thought was just a regular date night. Little did I know, he had something extra special up his sleeve. As we sat there, sipping on our drinks and sharing stories, Andrew suddenly got down on one knee. My heart nearly stopped as he pulled out a ring and poured his heart out, telling me how much he loved me and how he couldn't imagine spending his life with anyone else. Tears welled up in my eyes as I nodded, barely able to get the word yes out through my happy sobs. The entire restaurant erupted into cheers and applause as Andrew slipped the ring onto my finger, sealing our love for eternity. It was a moment I thought I would cherish forever. As soon as Andrew popped the question, I went into full-on wedding mode. I mean, who wouldn't, right? It was like a dream come true. So there I was, with this big shiny ring on my finger, feeling like I was on cloud 9. And let me tell you, my parents were just as excited as I was, maybe even more. They've always been supportive, and they've been saving up for my big day since like forever. Plus, they promised to throw in a sweet deal, a new house once I tie the knot. So, armed with all this love and support, I dove headfirst into wedding planning. I was like a whirlwind of Pinterest boards, bridal magazines, and late-night Google searches. Every spare moment I had, I was scrolling through wedding venues, checking out floral arrangements, and trying to decide between a million different shades of white for my dress. It was thrilling and overwhelming all at once, but I was loving every minute of it. I remember dragging Andrew along to the bridal expos and cake tastings, and he was such a trooper about it all. He'd nod along as I rambled on about color schemes and seating charts, offering his opinion when I asked for it, but mostly just letting me take the lead. It was like our own little adventure, navigating through the maze of wedding planning together. And let me tell you about the venue hunt. It was like trying to find a needle in a haystack. We must have visited a dozen places, from rustic barns to swanky hotels, trying to find the perfect spot to say our I do's. But we finally stumbled upon this quaint little vineyard tucked away in the countryside. We both knew it was the one. The rolling hills, the lush greenery, the rustic charm. It was like something out of a fairy tale. With the venue locked down, everything else started falling into place. I found the most gorgeous dress, think lace, tulle, and a whole lot of sparkle that made me feel like an absolute princess. And don't even get me started on the flowers. Peonies, roses, and eucalyptus galore. I wanted everything to be perfect, down to the smallest detail. As the days crept closer to my wedding, the nerves started kicking in big time. I mean, it's totally normal to feel a bit jittery, right? But just before my big weekend, when I was knee-deep in packing and getting everything sorted for the hotel stay, that's when it happened. Andrew had gone out with his buddies and cousins for some last-minute shopping. I was cool with that. Everyone needs a little pre-wedding bro time, right? But then out of nowhere, I got this message from him that felt like a punch to the gut. It was short and to the point. I messed up, made a mistake, can't do this anymore. That was it. No explanation, no nothing. Panic mode, oh yeah, I went full on panic mode. I tried calling him, but no answer. Text, nada. It was like he vanished into thin air. I didn't even have his friend's number to reach out and see what was going on. But I knew that Sophia, 28 female, my soon-to-be sister-in-law, was also with Andrew and his crew. When I finally managed to get a hold of her, she told me that Andrew never even showed up. Now, if you could imagine my mental state at that moment, it was like a tornado of emotions ripping through my brain. Confusion, anger, heartbreak, you name it. I was feeling it. I mean, who does that? Who just bails on their own wedding without so much of a heads up? It felt like my whole world was crashing down around me. I must have paced back and forth 100 times, trying to make sense of it all. Was this some kind of sick joke? Was Andrew pulling some last-minute cold feet stunt? Or was there something more going on that I didn't know about? The questions just kept swirling around in my head, driving me mad with worry and uncertainty. I was a hot mess, tears streaming down my face, my heart pounding like a jackhammer, the whole shebang. I mean, finding out your fiance bailed on your wedding via text message, that's enough to send anyone into a full-blown meltdown. So there I was, barely holding it together, when I decided to call up my trusty squad of friends for some much-needed moral support. I needed to vent, to scream into the void, to make sense of this insane situation. But just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, guess who waltzes through the floor? You guessed it, Andrew and Sophia, the dynamic duo themselves. And let me tell you, all hell broke loose. I lost it, man. I started screaming at Andrew, demanding to know how he could do this to me, how he could just bail on our wedding like it was no big deal. I mean, can you blame me? I was hurt, confused, and downright furious. And Andrew? He looked like a deer caught in headlights, completely clueless about what was going on. I shoved my phone in his face, practically shoving the message down his throat, and demanded answers. But instead of the apology I was expecting, he just looked at me with this bewildered expression and said the one thing I never expected to hear. He didn't send that message. Cue the record scratch. I swear, in that moment, my brain short-circuited. What do you mean he didn't send it? Who else could have possibly… Oh… And then it hit me like a ton of bricks. Sophia. I turned to her, eyes narrowed into slits, and demanded an explanation. And wouldn't you know it, she burst out laughing like it was the funniest joke in the world. She confessed that it was all just a prank, a twisted little game she cooked up for who knows what reason. I was speechless, livid, sure, but mostly just dumbfounded. I mean, who does that? Who thinks it's funny to mess with someone's emotions like that? I swear, when Sophia confessed to pulling that stunt, I saw red. I mean, who in their right minds think it's okay to mess with someone's emotions like that? Especially when it comes to something as big as your wedding day. Not cool, Sophia. Not cool at all. So, in my righteous fury, I laid down the law. I straight up told her that she was no longer welcome at my wedding. And let me tell you, I didn't mince words. I made it crystal clear that her little prank had crossed the line, and there was no way I was letting her anywhere near my big day. But oh no, Sophia wasn't about to back down that easy. Oh no. She had to go and tell me to relax, like it was all just a big joke. Well, I wasn't having it, not one bit. So I put my foot down and gave her an ultimatum. Leave my apartment and stay far, far away from my wedding, or face the consequences. And let me tell you, I wasn't bluffing. Archie tried to play the peacemaker. He attempted to reason with me, to calm me down, and to see things from Sophia's perspective. But honestly, at that point, I wasn't in the mood for reasoning. I was hurt, I was angry, and I just wanted her gone. So I stuck to my guns and told Archie in no uncertain terms that I didn't want to hear it. I wanted Sophia out, and I wanted her out now. And you know what? He listened. He finally saw that I wasn't messing around, and he told Sophia to hit the road. Just when I thought the drama was over, the phone started blowing up with calls from Archie's relatives, including his parents, and let me tell you, his mom wasted no time diving into the fray. She tried to play the peacekeeper, telling me to let bygones be bygones and just let Sophia come to the wedding like nothing happened. But I wasn't about to let that slide. I mean, after everything that went down, no way. So I laid down the law once again, telling her in no uncertain terms that there was no way in heck I was letting Sophia anywhere near my wedding. I mean, come on, the nerve of some people. I could feel the stress building up inside me with every word exchanged, and honestly, I just didn't have the energy to deal with it. Not with the big day looming just around the corner. So I put my foot down and told Archie's mom that I didn't want to entertain any more discussions about it. I needed to focus on getting through the next few days with my sanity intact, thank you very much. Just when I thought the storm had passed, little did I know that the real tornado was about to hit. It was the morning of my wedding, and I was in my room, getting dolled up for the big day. I was all nervous and excited, trying to keep those pre-wedding jitters at bay. And then, out of nowhere, guess who decides to waltz right in? You guessed it, Sophia. There I was in my wedding dress, feeling like an absolute princess, when in walks Sophia, looking all sheepish and apologetic. She's dressed to the nines like she's about to walk down the aisle herself, and she's got this look on her face, like she's about to drop the biggest bombshell of the century. I'll admit, I was caught off guard. I mean, who expects their soon-to-be ex-sister-in-law to crash their wedding day, right? So, naturally, my first instinct was to kick her out on the spot. I mean, come on, talk about bad timing. But then she hits me with a classic, "we need to talk" line, and I'll be honest, my curiosity got the better of me. So, begrudgingly, I agree to hear her out, but not before making it crystal clear that if she doesn't wrap it up in 5 minutes flat, I'm calling in security faster than you can say I do. She told me that what she did was a joke, and she wasn't going to apologize for it. I couldn't believe my ears when Sophia tried to brush off her little prank like it was no big deal. I mean, come on, who does that? But then, just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, she dropped another bombshell on me. She's got something she wants to show me. Now at this point, I'm thinking, what else could possibly go wrong? But curiosity gets the best of me, so I reluctantly agree to hear her out. And let me tell you, what she showed me next? It rocked me to my core. She pulls out her phone and starts showing me this text change between her, Andrew, and a few of his buddies. And as I'm reading through it, my stomach starts to churn. Turns out this conversation went down before Andrew and I even met. And what do I see? Andrew talking about me and my family like we're some kind of jackpot prize. Like he's just won the lottery or something. According to Sophia, Andrew had his eye on me because of my parents' wealth. He found out about them through our mutual friends and thought he hit the jackpot. Can you believe that? The nerve of some people. And here I was thinking we had this whirlwind romance straight out of a fairy tale. But no, turns out I was just another pawn in Andrew's little game of money grabbing. Talk about a punch to the gut. But Sophia wasn't done yet. Oh no, she had more dirt to dish. Turns out, the reason Andrew moved in with me so quickly and popped the question like it was no big deal, it wasn't because he couldn't live without me or some romantic nonsense like that. No, it was all about the Benjamins, or rather, my parents' bank account. I felt like the ground had been yanked out from under me. Here I was, thinking I had found the love of my life, only to realize I'd been played like a fiddle. And the worst part, I never even saw it coming. When Sophia told me this, I was reeling. Why now? Why on my wedding day of all days? Her answer, she hated me and wanted to ruin everything. Talk about a slap in the face. I couldn't believe the audacity of it all. Here I was, standing there in my wedding dress, with my whole world crumbling around me. and Sophia had the nerve to admit she was the one behind it all. I was furious, hurt, betrayed, you name it. I was feeling it. But as I stood there, grappling with this newfound betrayal, I realized I had a decision to make. Who was I supposed to be mad at? My deceitful fiancé or the conniving sister-in-law? It felt like I was stuck between a rock and a hard place, with no easy way out. In the end, I knew what I had to do. I couldn't go through with marrying someone who had betrayed my trust in such a profound way. So without a second thought, I bolted out of the room. Sophia's phone still clutched tightly in my hand and headed straight for Andrew. I found him, and let me tell you, I didn't hold back. I confronted him about those damning messages. I laid out the evidence before him and demanded answers. But you know what his response was? Silence. He couldn't deny it. The proof was right there in front of him, staring him in the face, and yet he had the audacity to try and brush it off like it was no big deal. He tried to tell me that he loved me, that those messages meant nothing. But how could I believe him? How could I trust someone who had lied to me, manipulated me, and used me for their own gain? I looked him straight in the eye and told him I didn't even know who he was anymore. How could I marry someone I didn't even recognize? In the end, I knew what I had to do. I walked away. I walked away from Andrew, from the wedding, from everything. I went back to my parents, told my friends to spread the word that the wedding was off, and came back home to lick my wounds. However, now that I am in my apartment alone, I miss him. I feel lonely, and I am questioning if I made the wrong decision here. Was I too quick in calling my wedding off? Should I have listened to Andrew and believed when he told me that he loved me and the messages meant nothing? Hey there, it's been a minute since all the craziness went down, and let me tell you, things have been a roller coaster of emotions. After I walked away from everything, the wedding, Andrew, the whole shebang, I headed back home with a heavy heart and a head full of doubts. The first thing I did when I got back was change the passcode on our lock. I couldn't bear the thought of Andrew waltzing back into my life like nothing had happened. And let me tell you, the phone calls started flooding in. But did I pick up? Heck no. I ignored every single one of those calls like my life depended on it. I mean, what was there left to say? After everything that had happened, what more was there to discuss? My parents and friends, bless their hearts, wanted to stick around and support me through this rough patch. But you know what? I just needed some time to be alone with my thoughts. So I politely told them that I needed some space and retreated to the comfort of my room. And let me tell you, those first few days were rough. I cried more tears than I ever thought possible, mourning the loss of the future I had envisioned with Andrew. It felt like my heart had been ripped out of my chest, leaving behind nothing but an empty void. The person I had loved, the person I had trusted with my whole heart, had betrayed me in the worst possible way. It was a betrayal that cut deeper than any knife, leaving scars that I knew would never fully heal. Dealing with Andrew's stuff was like ripping off a band-aid, painful but necessary. I couldn't have reminders of him lurking around in my place, reminding me of the mess that he'd left behind. So I did what any self-respecting person would do. I gave him an ultimatum. I told him to show up at a specific time, and if he wasn't there to collect his things, they were going out on the curb. And let me tell you, I stuck to my guns like nobody's business. I packed up all his stuff into garbage bags, ready to toss them out the second he missed his deadline. About 15 minutes before the time I'd given him, I hauled those bags out into the sidewalk and waited for him to show up. I didn't want to actually be out of the house when he showed up, so I threw his stuff beforehand. When Andrew finally rolled up, he was furious, banging on the door, shouting obscenities, the whole 9 yards. He even threatened to break the door down if I didn't let him in. But I did not cave, not a chance. I stood my ground, ignoring his threats and refusing to engage with his childish tantrums. Sure, I'll admit I was a little scared. Who wouldn't be with someone pounding on your door like they're auditioning for a horror movie? But I didn't let it show. I stayed silent, resolute in my decision to put an end to this chapter of my life once and for all. And you know what? Eventually he gave up, storming off into the night like a petulant child who didn't get their way. And just like that, his stuff was gone, out of my life and out of my house. And let me tell you, the sense of relief I felt was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. For the first time in what felt like forever, I could finally breathe properly in my own home. Hi, I know it's only been a few days since my last update, but something big has happened, and I needed to share it. Just when I thought I could finally catch a break, guess who came knocking on my door? Yup, none other than Sophia herself. And let me tell you, I was not exactly thrilled about it. I mean, after everything she'd pulled, the pranks, the lies, the betrayal, I wasn't exactly eager to have a heart-to-heart with her. But for some reason, she just wouldn't take no for an answer. It was like she had some kind of vendetta against me, and she wasn't about to rest until she had her say. To be fair though, part of me was curious. I mean, why did she go through all that trouble to sabotage my wedding? What did she hope to gain from tearing down everything I'd worked so hard for? So, against my better judgment, I agreed to meet up with her. I mean, what's the worst that could happen, right? Famous last words, I know. We met at a nearby cafe, and let me tell you, the tension was so thick, you could cut it with a knife. I mean, here we were, two grown adults who should have been minding their own business, and instead we're sitting there, staring at each other down like we're about to engage in a duel to death. But as much as I wanted to stay mad at her, I couldn't help but feel a begrudging sense of gratitude towards her. I mean, sure, she may have ruined my wedding, but in a way she also saved me from making the biggest mistake of my life. If it wasn't for her meddling, I would have ended up legally tied to Andrew, a thought that sent shivers down my spine. So in a weird twist of fate, Sophia actually did me a favor by blowing the lid off of Andrew's true intentions. But still, that didn't mean I was about to let her off the hook that easily. I asked her what she wanted from me. She wanted me to talk to Andrew. Talk about a twist of fate. According to Sophia, Andrew had been making her life a living hell ever since she spilled the beans about his little scheme. Threatening her, harassing her, the whole 9 yards. And for what? Because she dared to stand up to him and tell me the truth? I couldn't believe it. Here was this guy who I thought I knew inside and out, turning into some kind of vengeful monster right before my eyes. It was like something out of a horror movie. Except this time, the villain was real. Sophia went on to tell me that Andrew had even tried to get her to lie to me, to tell me that everything she'd said was just a big misunderstanding. Can you believe the nerve on this guy? I couldn't help but chuckle bitterly at the absurdity of it all. Did he really think I was stupid enough to fall for his little charade? To just sweep everything under the rug and pretend like nothing had happened? You want me to talk to a man who not only betrayed me from the moment we met, but was now threatening Sophia? Yeah, right. Like that was ever going to happen. I told Sophia in no uncertain terms that I wasn't about to play into Andrew's twisted games. Not now, not ever. He made his bed, and now he could lie in it, alone. Just when I thought things couldn't get any crazier, Andrew decided to up the ante. And let me tell you, it was something out of a horror movie. Over time, I started getting these relentless calls from random numbers, and every single time I picked up, it was Andrew on the other end, screaming his head off and hurling insults like there was no tomorrow. I mean, talk about harassment. At first, I thought it was just a one-off thing. You know, Andrew blowing off steam after everything that had gone down. But oh no, it didn't stop there. It felt like every time I turned around there was another call, another barrage of verbal abuse to contend with. I must have blocked at least 20 numbers by now, but it was like playing a never-ending game of whack-a-mole. No matter how many times I blocked one, another would pop up in its place. It was like Andrew was recruiting random strangers off the street just so he could have more numbers to harass me from. And let me tell you, it was starting to take its toll. I mean, who wouldn't be on the edge after dealing with that kind of constant harassment? It was like I couldn't even pick up the phone without wondering if it was going to be Andrew on the other end, ready to tear me a new one. But you know what? As bad as it was, at least he wasn't showing up at my doorstep anymore. Small victories, right? Still, that didn't stop me from feeling like a prisoner in my own home. I mean, how could I feel safe when I knew Andrew was out there, lurking in the shadows, just waiting for his next opportunity to strike? And then there was Sophia. Poor Sophia, caught in the crossfire of Andrew's twisted vendetta. He'd been threatening her too, just for having the audacity to stand up for him and tell me the truth. It was like he was determined to make everyone's life a living hell, just because his little plan had backfired. I can't just sit around and wait for things to escalate even further. So I am making a decision. I am getting out of Dodge, at least for a little while. I can't risk staying in this apartment, not when Andrew is out there, prowling around like a wild animal. Hi guys, I know it's been a few months since my last update. Sorry for dropping off the radar like that, but I needed some time to regroup and get my head straight. So, big news, I finally made the move and left that old apartment behind. Yep, you heard me right, no more dodging Andrew's calls or feeling like I'm constantly looking over my shoulder. I packed up my stuff and hightailed it out of there faster than you can say good riddance. Now don't get me wrong, leaving that place wasn't easy. I mean, it had been my home for what felt like forever, and saying goodbye to all those memories, both good and bad, wasn't exactly a walk in the park. But in the end, I knew it was the right decision. I mean, how could I ever feel safe or secure knowing that Andrew could show up at any moment, ready to wreak havoc on my life once again? It just wasn't worth the risk. So I found myself a new place, a cozy little spot that's closer to my parents' house. It's nothing fancy, but it's got everything I need to start fresh and put all this drama behind me once and for all. Of course, adjusting to living alone again hasn't exactly been a walk in the park. I mean, after everything that went down with Andrew, I'd gotten so used to having someone else around all the time. Now it's just me, myself, and I. And let me tell you, it's taking some getting used to. But hey, I'm not thinking of not resilient. I've been slowly but surely settling into my new digs, making it feel more like home with each passing day. And you know what? It feels good to finally have a space that's all my own, free from all the drama and chaos that plagued my old place. Also, I don't know much about what's going on in Andrew's life, except that he went back to live with his parents. He couldn't afford to live on his own, as he had blown his savings on God knows what. All I can say is good riddance. Thank you everyone for your kind words. And that was it for today's story. Thank you very much for listening. Smash the like button for me and subscribe for more stories. Thanks again. We'll be seeing you in the next one.